How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Salamander Wilds, and in today's video I want to talk about something pretty cool, and I think this will actually really add to people's understanding of just how complex and unique newts and salamanders really are, and probably even give you a better appreciation for these animals. And so with that, I'm going to ask all of you, how old do you think my eastern newts are? Of course, I'm going to give you the answer, but let's sit on that for just a moment and we're going to discuss. And if you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like, share, comment down below, please subscribe. Let's get into it. So I've got my two eastern newts here, well, 2 out of the 8 that I currently have. Now, I did not obtain all of them at the same time. We're going to take a guess and kind of estimate just how old these animals are. And before I do that, let's just kind of talk about, the age that these animals can reach when you take good care of them. So I decided to pull out 2 eastern newts from my enclosure. I got the rest still in the tank, but I wanted to get a nice, good look at these really awesome animals while we talk about them. And, I posed the question, how old are they? Because at first glance, look at what they're doing right now. They're nipping each other. That's just what they do. Especially over food. They want food right now, so I may just put some food in here while we talk about it. But, these animals, at a glance, are kind of clumsy, maybe not the best hunters, and, you might assume that these really don't live a long time. There's frogs that live about 7, maybe 10 years, depending on the species. Dogs live, about the age that we're all familiar with, 15 years, maybe older than that, obviously, but that's an old dog, right? And we think about, maybe even rodents, how many years that some of these animals live as well. And so when you think about the normal animals that you're accustomed to and how old they can become and what would be considered an old age for them, you see, these eastern newts aren't just like your average pet. If taken care of the right way, they can live a lot longer than even your dog, believe it or not. As small as they are, and again, as clumsy and awkward as they kind of seem to be from time to time, in their own cute little way, these animals live a long time. They can live upwards of 20 plus years, even 30 plus years, depending on the species. And now we have this one starting trouble over here, so let me just put some food in for them, and we'll keep talking. Yeah, they know what their food looks like right away. You gotta wait for that to defrost just a little bit, man. Yeah. Well, that's actually a female. And for those of you that can't tell the difference, just note those hind legs compared to the male's legs right here. Very big difference in size in the hind legs. One of the key differences between males and females in the species. But without getting off topic here, you would think that an animal like this really wouldn't live to, an age like that. And it always really amazes me just how long they really can live. And, it's like these animals are always full of surprises the more that I learn about them. To really kind of hammer on that idea of an animal like this outliving even your dog is really incredible to me, because now in the wild they don't necessarily live that long. Of course, there's so many factors when it comes to longevity and age in wild animals, of course, and their natural lifespan. But in captivity, since they are not exposed to the threats posed in nature, and if these animals are taken care of the right way, they can live for a very long time And in fact, the oldest, I think it was the oldest Chinese firebelly newt to be exact, ever recorded was 55 years old and still able to breed. If I remember correctly, don't quote me on this, it was an article that I read some time ago. If I find it, maybe I'll include it here in the video, but I think it was an Olm, O-L-M, that is a very, very unique type of salamander. Would love to see one in person. They're so mysterious and, you know, really crazy looking creatures, but I think they recorded it to be at least 70 years old, right? I mean, these animals, I really don't know what other word to use other than, you know, mysterious, surprising, and, you know, they just look prehistoric in a lot of cases. And I don't know, it's this sort of stuff that really just keeps me intrigued when it comes to newts and salamanders. And my Eastern newts, you know, my favorites of all time, they're no exception to that, because these little fellas, they always amaze me. Yeah, so when you really start to take all that in, you realize that this is an animal that is very full of life. They do recognize their owners. They know where their food comes from. You know, there's a lot going on in that tiny little brain of theirs, more than you would think. You know, so without rambling, with all of that said, I think it also drives home a certain idea, and I'm actually going to do a dedicated video on this topic. The food's behind you. These animals, I want to drive home this point: if you take care of them the right way. I can't stress that enough. But, you know, we tend to force our animals to do a lot of things that they wouldn't normally do, keeping them in enclosures that they're not meant to live in, you know, keeping them in ways that they just, you know, in ways that they don't live at all in nature. And one of the key ways to really ensure that your animal will live a long time is that you don't have to go for a fancy setup all the time. Now, let me just say this. I do believe that the enclosure I keep my animals in should look as beautiful as the animal that lives in it. But, you know, that may have some constraints. Maybe it's not as a complex setup as you might think. And it doesn't have to be, because the number one goal here is always the longevity of your animal. And, you know, these animals are no different from any other, whether it's your dog, whether it's your cat, or, you know, a rabbit, whatever the case is, your frog, your snake. These animals are no different and should be kept in the best manner possible. And, you know, isn't that what we always want, the best for our animals, right? So, you know, and you'll achieve that longevity if you keep them the right way. So that brings me to, how old are my newts? If you've seen my other videos about Eastern newts, maybe you could kind of piece this together yourself. But for any newcomers, it takes about 4 to 6 years for the red eft stage of the Eastern newt to mature. That is their terrestrial stage. So if it takes 4 to 6 years for them to mature, become an adult, and go back into the water, I've had my particular newts for about 6.5 years. So that's putting really their age range anywhere between, right now, 10 to 12 years old. So that shows you that if you keep them the right way, you keep these animals healthy, happy, the right enclosure, the right food, you're going to get a lot of time out of these wonderful animals, as they should, as they deserve. You know, they don't deserve anything less than that. So, you know, a lot of things to maybe just take into consideration in keeping an animal like this, but they can live a very long time if you care for them the right way. Alright, so I'm going to wrap up the video here. Hopefully all of you have a better appreciation for these really wonderful animals. I mean, I know the more I learn about them, really, the more I want to keep learning, and they just really never cease to amaze me. So, you know, I really love these eastern newts especially, and to know that they can live quite a long time through, you know, I guess a lot of moments throughout my life, longer than my dog even, is pretty incredible to me. And, you know, hopefully you'll all have a better understanding as well if you take really good care of them under the right conditions. Don't force them in complicated setups that aren't necessary. You know, just give them what they need, and you'll get a really long lifespan out of your newt or salamander. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it there, and if you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like, share, comment down below, let me know what you think, and of course, please subscribe. Your support is very much appreciated, and until next time everyone, stay curious and journey into the salamander wilds.